The stadium is electric. The crowd hums with anticipation as athletes settle into their blocks. On this day in October 1985, history is about to be made, though no one yet knows how deep the shockwave will run. Marita Koch, dressed in the East German colors, stands calm. Her eyes laser-focused down the curve of the 400-meter track. Her breathing is steady, but every muscle in her body seems coiled like a spring. The starter's pistol cracks, and she explodes forward. Her drive phase is so fast that she eats up the stagger within the first 100 meters. By halfway, the stadium is buzzing. She is on world record pace, faster than anyone has ever dared go. Her stride is long, yet graceful, and she holds her form as if the lactic acid simply does not touch her. When she crosses the finish line, the clock flashes 47:60 seconds. A time so fast, so untouchable, that it will live for decades as a near mythical standard. This is the moment the world remembers, but it is not where the story begins. To truly understand Marita Koch, you have to go back to the quiet streets of Wismar, to a young girl who first discovered she could run faster than anyone around her. Marita was born on a cold February morning in 1957, in the small harbor city of Wismar, on the Baltic coast of what was then East Germany. She grew up in a country rebuilding itself from the ashes of war, a country that saw sport not just as a pastime, but as a way to show strength on the world stage. From the beginning, she was different. In school races, she would line up against the boys and leave them behind. Teachers noticed. Coaches noticed. By the time she was in her mid-teens, local trainers had their eye on her, whispering that this girl might be special. When she was just 15, she caught the attention of Wolfgang Meyer, a quiet but brilliant coach who would become her lifelong mentor, and eventually her husband. Meyer saw not only raw speed, but also rare endurance, the ability to sustain pace while others faltered. He invited her to train seriously, to step into a program that could shape her into a champion. It was not easy. The East German sports system was rigorous, demanding, relentless. There were early morning sessions on cinder tracks, repeated intervals, long strength sessions in cold gymnasiums. The weather in Rostock, where she trained, was often harsh, the wind cutting in from the Baltic Sea. But Marita rarely complained. She seemed to thrive on the work, on the structure, on the promise of improvement. In those years, she even began medical studies at the university, briefly dreaming of becoming a doctor, before the pull of the track proved too strong. Running was what she was born to do, and she knew it. By the early 1970s, she was climbing the ranks. At first, she was just another talented teenager. But by 17, she was running times that put her among the best juniors in Europe. In 1975, she traveled to Athens for the European Junior Championships, where she won gold in the relay and silver in the 400 meters. It was her first taste of international competition, the first time she realized she could not just compete with the best, she could beat them. Her confidence grew. The following year, she was in shape to make her Olympic debut at Montreal. The entire East German team had high hopes for her. But sport is cruel, and injuries struck at the worst moment. A muscle tear forced her to withdraw. For a teenager with the Olympic Games in sight, it was devastating. Yet Marita's response was not despair, but determination. She vowed to come back stronger, faster, more prepared than ever. The years that followed were nothing short of explosive. By 1977, she was breaking records indoors, running a world record 400 meters in Milan with a time of 51.80 seconds. Her reputation grew. People began to whisper that she was not just a great runner, but perhaps the future of the event. And then came 1978, when she shattered the outdoor world record with 49.19 seconds, the first of many times she would lower the global standard. It was the start of something extraordinary. She was still young, still learning, but already dominating fields with a mixture of raw speed and brutal endurance. What set Marita apart was her versatility. Most sprinters specialize in either the short sprints or the one-lap race. Marita trained for everything: 50 meters, 60 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters, and of course the 400. The short sprints sharpened her explosiveness. The longer work built her strength and ability to hold pace under fatigue. Her training sessions were legendary: flying sprints, repeated 150s and 300s at near maximum pace, weight sessions for power, technical drills to perfect her stride. She was meticulous, almost scientific in her approach. And at the center of it all was Wolfgang Meyer, designing her workouts with precision, ensuring that every detail, from recovery days to nutrition, was accounted for. By the end of the decade, Marita Koch was no longer just a rising star. She was the star. She was rewriting what was possible for women in sprinting. Her 200-meter times were approaching 21.7 seconds, a barrier thought nearly impossible. Her 400-meter times were dropping into uncharted territory. And then came 1980, the Moscow Olympics. The Cold War was raging. Politics loomed over sport. But inside the stadium, it was still about speed, about who could reach the line first. Marita lined up for the 400 meters as the favorite. The pressure was enormous. But when the gun fired, she delivered. She powered through the backstretch, hit the final straight with perfect form, and crossed the line first, winning Olympic gold for East Germany. It was the moment she had dreamed of since she was a teenager, the ultimate redemption for missing the Montreal Games. She also ran in the 400 relay, helping her team to a silver medal. For Marita, it was the confirmation that she was truly the best in the world. But she was not done. The early 1980s became the era of Marita Koch's dominance. She won title after title, European championships, World Cup meets, setting more records along the way. In 1983, at the very first World Championships in Helsinki, she had one of the finest competitions of her life. Gold in the 200 meters, gold in both relays, and silver in the 100 meters. She was at the peak of her powers, and there seemed to be no limit to what she could achieve. Even the heartbreak of missing the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics due to the Eastern Bloc boycott did not stop her. Instead, she kept racing, kept winning, kept pushing the boundaries of the possible. And all of this was leading toward the moment that would define her career. That magical day in Canberra in 1985, where she would do something no woman has ever done since. The air in Canberra was warm that October afternoon. The sun bathed the track in gold as Marita Koch stepped onto the starting line. The tension was thick, every eye locked on the lanes. This was the IAAF World Cup, one of the biggest meets outside the Olympics. And Marita was here to prove once again she was the queen of the 400 meters. She looked calm, almost serene, her focus unshakable. Inside, she knew this was her chance to send a message. The boycott of 1984 had taken away her second Olympic gold. This race would be her statement to the world. The starter called them to set. The gun cracked. Marita exploded out of the blocks like lightning. Her first 100 meters were astonishingly fast. She ate up the stagger on her rivals almost instantly. By 200 meters, she was already ahead of the field. Her stride was powerful but smooth, her arms in perfect rhythm. At 300 meters, where most runners begin to fade, she did not. She held her form as if fatigue had no claim on her body. Down the final straight, the stadium roared. Marita drove to the finish line with relentless precision. When she crossed, the clock stopped at 47.60 seconds. A new world record. A mark so far ahead of its time that it felt unreal. Even today, nearly 40 years later, no one has come closer than a few tenths. It was the perfect race. A lap of the track that became a piece of history. The crowd erupted as the world tried to process what it had just seen. Her competitors were stunned. Even Marita, usually composed, allowed herself a small smile. She had just delivered the run of her life. The following season, she kept winning. European titles, international meets, her dominance was complete. But time was beginning to catch up with her. Injuries crept in. Sore tendons, tired muscles, the wear of years of training. Each comeback was harder, each recovery longer. By 1987, Marita knew the end was near. She had already achieved everything. World titles, Olympic gold, multiple world records. There was nothing left to prove. Marita Koch retired quietly, without a farewell race. No farewell tour, no dramatic announcement. She simply stepped away from competition. She married Wolfgang Meyer, the man who had coached her from the beginning. Together they opened a sporting goods business in Rostock. Marita embraced a life away from the spotlight. She became a mother, living peacefully by the Baltic coast. Her days were no longer measured in intervals and split times. But her name never left the conversation. Every time a new 400-meter star emerged, the question was asked, can she beat Koch's record? And every time, the answer was no. The record survived year after year, meet after meet. It became a mountain no one could climb. And with it came both awe and debate. In the 1990s, after German reunification, secret files were opened. They revealed East Germany's state-sponsored doping program. The world re-evaluated many of the performances of that era. Marita has always denied knowingly taking anything illegal. She insists her results came from talent, discipline, and training. Whatever the truth, her record still stands. That debate only adds to its mystique. Some see it as untouchable, others as a relic of a controversial time in sport. Today, Marita Koch lives quietly, still in Rostock. She remains a legend to athletes and fans around the world. Her 400-meter time is still the gold standard. When people speak of her, they speak of precision and grace. Of a woman who ran like a machine but with the heart of a fighter. Of someone who pushed the human body to its outer limit. Her story is more than medals and numbers. It is about chasing perfection and finding it, if only for 47.60 seconds. A moment of pure athletic brilliance frozen in time. Every 400-meter runner today still chases her ghost. Every race begins with the shadow of Marita Koch in the lanes. Perhaps that is her true legacy, to make others believe perfection is possible. And so her name lives on, not just in the record books, but in the imagination of every athlete who dreams of the perfect lap. Because Marita Koch did it first, and did it better than anyone ever has.